Another one has fallen. Another guilty plea in the Georgia RICO case against Donald Trump and his 19 co-conspirators in the efforts to overturn Georgia voters' will in the year 2020. That's Kenneth Chesebro, our big boy, Big Cheese, former lawyer for Donald Trump. He pled guilty on Friday to illegally conspiring to overturn the 2020 election. He struck a deal that allows him to avoid jail time. But here are the details. So he pled guilty to a single felony count, conspiracy to file false documents, and accepted a sentence of 3 to 5 years of probation, $1,000 fine, $5,000 in restitution to the state of Georgia, and this is my favorite, an apology letter. It's got to be in cursive, your best handwriting, sort of sprayed with his finest cologne. 100 hours of community service and a promise to testify truthfully, dun dun dun, against any other co-defendants in the case should they go to trial. According to the indictment, one memo he wrote, quote, provides detailed state-specific instructions for how Trump presidential elector nominees in Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin would meet and cast electoral votes for Trump, even though he lost the election in those states. So again, he has to testify. If he's asked to testify, he's got to pay, what is it, $6,000 in total. But Senator, this was arguably, with a silly name as Chesebro, this guy was arguably the architect for how these alternate slates of electors in other states, not just in Georgia, would gather, would meet, and would submit the alternate slates and these other electors, to the vice president. It seems to me that not seeing any jail time, I don't even like community service, like 100 hours, please. Like that, again, it still seems like he got off so easy, but maybe he's gonna have to testify against Trump. What do you think?
I mean, these white collar criminals get away with a lot all the time. I mean, people with traffic violations get worse than what he is getting right now. And I don't know if Chesebro technically, well, let me go back. You talk about the Fox Garden, the hen house. I mean, can he legitimately be trusted to tell the truth?
Yeah.
He been lying this whole time. So now all of a sudden he's gonna do a 360 and tell the truth. I seriously doubt it, Francesca. But for all his involvement and what has been done, he is definitely getting a slap on the wrist. And this is another example of how uneven the justice system can be most of the time, or is most of the time.
Right, and it's interesting because his case was tied to that of Sidney Powell's. We know Sidney Powell, as we reported on Friday, did also plead guilty. Similar conditions, a similar amount of money. I think she might have more community or a few years more of probation. Interestingly, even though she represents a massive threat to Donald Trump himself, Trump bleated out some like words of praise for Sidney Powell, maybe because he's afraid of her. Even though she pled guilty and admitted that what she did was wrong and was criminal, he bleated Sidney Powell was one of millions and millions of people who thought, and in ever increasing numbers still think correctly, that the 2020 presidential election was rigged and stolen and our country is being absolutely destroyed because of it. Despite the fake news reports to the contrary, and without even reaching out to ask the Trump campaign, Miss Powell was not my attorney and never was. In fact, she would have been conflicted. Miss Powell did a valiant job of representing a very unfairly treated and governmentally abused General Mike Flynn, but to no avail. His prosecution, despite the facts, was ruthless. He was an innocent man, much like many other innocent people who are being persecuted by this now fascist government of ours. Ooh, fun. And I was honored to give him a full pardon. I love how when Trump sort of addresses one crime, he like immediately draws our attention to another crime and another one of his stooges who actually saw the inside of a prison cell and like served time on his behalf. But there he is. It kind of feels like he is scared to me that he doesn't want Sidney Powell to completely flip on him or testify, even though she is legally now obligated to do so truthfully. Any final words on this?
Francesca, I mean, Trump is trumping. I mean, because he knows ultimately, I just don't believe there are gonna be any consequences for this man that's really gonna stick. I just don't, and I think he knows that as well. Your point about him not, him singing praise to her, it might be the case. He's just trying to soften her up, kind of sweeten her up to not necessarily, I mean, there's a difference between telling the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Maybe she'll just stop at truth and not do the other 2 points.
Yes.